Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Broken Berean. And today we're going to be looking at Suicide Squad Isekai. Now, for those that don't know, Isekai is a genre of manga that is basically comes down to people from the normal worlds, aka our world, are transported to a different magical world. And that's exactly what happens here. And they do explain how this happens. But basically, this is what you would expect for a Suicide Squad story. The squad is put together and sent to this magical world to set up defenses. So, there will be some slight spoilers. I will try to keep it vague because I do want people to watch this and I don't want to ruin it for you. But I will explain a few things. I will be mentioning characters. So, I'll keep it brief as much as I can. But I've watched the first 3 episodes and I love it. It's fun. This isn't your typical DC animation. This is a weird kind of crossover. It's anime style and it's fun. And here's where it gets a little weirder. And that is it follows anime styling and storytelling. And this is a good thing. It's different. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of this from animation from other IPs because anime and manga are becoming such huge influences in our culture. Manga has been outselling comic books for several years now, and it's becoming more popular. Manga more popular. My kids won't hardly touch any of my comic books, but they'll definitely want me to buy them more manga. So it's definitely this younger influence, and I'm all for it because they have unique stories. It's great storytelling. They're focused on telling the story and the story they want to tell. So here's where it comes down to. Essentially, you have our 5-member squad of the Suicide Squad that is going to this Isekai world, and that is Harley Quinn, Peacemaker, Clayface, Deadshot, and King Shark. That's the team. Now, when they get to this world, the fun part is the Clayface character isn't like the one that I grew up with learning about through Batman the Animated Series and some of the comics around that time. He's an actor and he literally thinks he's kind of in like an acting set. Everything he comes out of his mouth is just like, "Oh, this is how we do it in production. Oh, great. This is how we advance the story." He's really kind of it's not quite meta, but it's definitely something. I'm not even sure how to describe it. He thinks he's in. He even says the word isekai several times, explaining where they are and what they're doing. So, but he thinks he's kind of in this fantastic set, even though he comes to realize he's not. He still acts like this is some sort of production, which is very funny. Now, we're in this world. A lot of their abilities are enhanced. Specifically, we've seen so far that Clayface can do a lot more things with his metahuman abilities than just his own body. He can do things with other objects, and I suspect we'll probably see more abilities coming through. Now, they're thrown into this world because Amanda Waller wants resources. She's the one that sent them. So we all remember Amanda Waller. And she sends them with this new Argus agent that I'm unfamiliar with. And they kind of get thrown into it. And in this world, there's these humanoids that look slightly human. They look mostly human. There's some slight differences in the appearance. But humans and what we would call what you call them, anamorphized beings and orcs, and they're at war. And they kind of step into the middle of the battle, and they continue to kind of basic. They actually kind of fight both sides. It's kind of funny. They fight on both sides. It's really interesting, but they're siding with the humans because they have to get back to their chopper before their little explosive devices in their head. I think they have a specific name. But the explosive devices in their head explode. They've got to get back within 72 hours. So that's kind of the plot line at the moment for these first 3 episodes. Now, I will say this: that there's a lot of purists out there that will say, "Oh, I only watch the sub," and I get that. That's how I grew up having to watch anime, was do it. But when dub's available, I always watch it. And the dubs are coming out a week later after the sub. Fine. So I'm going to be watching the dub. And here's why I would recommend you do it too. Because when I watched the sub, it didn't occur to me in the first episode I just watched the sub before the dubs dropped this week, and no big deal. Except when I watched the dub, you realize that they speak English. The Suicide Squad speaks English, and or they're, I guess, Japanese, but they speak their language, and this other world don't speak the same language. Even the factions speak slightly different languages, and that doesn't come out when you're listening to it in Japanese and reading the subtitles. You miss it, and they do spell it out that they do speak languages in the second episode, and so if you're watching the sub, you can see it, and you're like, oh, okay, and you have to reset your mind. But that's why I like dub, because I can pay attention to what's going on and not having to translate what's going on with the words and everything. I'm not dumb. I just prefer it. I'd rather focus on what's going on than focus on what's going on and reading at the same time. Don't get me wrong. I watch a lot of foreign films because, I mean, some of the best sci-fi movies coming out nowadays are coming from Korea and Spain. So I absolutely read subtitles. But this is one of those ones where I do think dub would definitely be preferred. So you catch some of these nuances like the language barriers between everybody, and it gets a little more interesting. Now, these aren't the only characters that we've seen so far. If you see in the picture here, yes, Joker's in there in the intro in the first episode, kind of like the movie, the first movie. You see him, you see like Jared Leto's Joker for a little bit, and he's kind of in there. Kind of the same thing here. He's in there for a little bit, but he doesn't go to the magical world. And we see other characters in the beginning, like Katana, but in the third episode, I think near the end of the second one, but starting the third, we see Flag and Katana and Ratcatcher, the original Ratcatcher, not his daughter that we saw in the Suicide Squad movie, are already in this world and have been here. And there's a few others that you see silhouettes of, and I'm not quite sure who they're supposed to be. I have a suspicion that Swamp Thing might be one of them. Not sure. You only see the outlines of their bodies, and so I want to say it's Swamp Thing, but I kind of doubt it. Leafy guy, and so I think this is a very radical departure from DC animation, but I do think it's a good one. And so far, the story is really interesting. It's really engaging. You're seeing kind of like they stepped into a civil war almost. Well, they're stepped into a war. And there's civil unrest between the queen and the princess and how they should approach what's going on. And so there's a lot of complicated nuance between the humanoids, and there's a lot of complicated nuance between the animals. And it is fascinating. Now, so far, it's nothing that's just like this is the best thing I've ever seen. No, it's nothing like that. But I am enjoying it. And I will bring you more reviews of the episodes and I'll get more in depth. But I just want to put this out there because some people don't know about it, some people do, and a lot of people are going to love it and a lot of people are going to hate it because they don't like it. They didn't like Batman Ninja, or they don't like the new Ninja coming out versus the Yakuza. They don't like this anime style. They want to keep it more traditional Western animation. And I get that. But putting them in this scenario and watching how a Japanese studio is interpreting the characters and making them in a Japanese anime world and directing and creating these characters is just fascinating. I love it. It looks like you are watching an anime, but with characters that you already know from DC. So it's fun, it's engaging. And so far, I mean, 3 episodes, and I was like, oh, I'm probably going to watch the episode 4 and sub tonight after this video because I kind of want to know what's going on. I don't want to wait till next Thursday to see what's happening. So I'm excited. This is a fun series. I do think a lot of people love it, but I also see how a lot of people are going to hate it. Personally, this is just a kind of a blend between two things I love. I love anime and I love DC, and this is a good merger, unlike the RWYB and Justice League. Didn't like that at all. It just felt weird. It felt forced. This feels natural, and it feels entertaining, and I'm enjoying it. Now, is this going to be something that I'm like, yes, by the end of it, this was worth it? Probably. Because there's nothing so far that has said I'm going to really hate the way this works or how this is being made. The story isn't terribly groundbreaking, to say the least, but it is an interesting concept. And I do think it's one that's worth exploring. So maybe it's good, maybe it's not. But I got to be honest, I'm trying to I'm trying to see both sides of this from friends I know and how they'll perceive it. Because I'm trying to see it from not just my perspective, but from my perspective, this looks great. So far, wonderful. Can't wait to see more. And I think if you watch the dub, you're really going to love how much of anime really can elevate DC Comics and other established characters in a new way and it still be good and still be true to the characters we know and love. So I'm all for it. I can't wait to see what's coming down the pipe. And I'm not actually sure how many episodes there's going to be, but it is on Hulu right now. That's where I'm watching it. And I do think y'all should take a look because I watched all 3 dubs back to back and it was just good. It was good. I mean, I don't want to say it's great. I don't think it's great. I do think it's really good though. It's not something that I'm just like, this is incredible. I love it. But it is very Suicide Squad-esque. And they keep the dynamics and the character motivations intact, and even with Deadshot and Harley and Peacemaker, they seem very on point. Same with King Shark. Clayface is a little departure, but I'm okay with it. It seems appropriate, and it seems much added comic relief. Not much needed, but an eccentric comic relief, and it's just funny. He probably is my favorite character in the series because he just has no concept of this being serious at all, and it's funny the way he's interpreting everything, and it's just it's entertaining because it's such a big departure from the Clayface I grew up with in the animated series, like I said before, because he was just mean and fierce, and he's just really aloof, just thinks he's the best actor in all the world, and the world is a stage, and everyone is catering to him, and he's playing the part, and this is the part of a lifetime, and it's hilarious. So I think this is a show worth watching, especially if you're a DC fan, and if you're not, if you're an anime fan, this is something you'd enjoy too. It's not just for DC people. So until next time, my friends, until the next episode drops next week, as always, I love you all, and there's nothing you can do about it.